and welcome to Season 13, Episode 1 of Unlimited Opinions. I'm Adam Bishop.
I'm Mark Bishop.
We are, of course, at the start of a new season, starting a new book, this time
Of course.
reading, of course, yes, reading Plato's Republic from beginning to end, starting before the beginning this time. I thought we were going to be discussing the first book of Plato's Republic, but we got confused, and you only read the editor's introduction to the book and not the first book of the book.
I feel like
that's all right,
though, because the introduction was a summary of the book, which was a weird introduction.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yes. Well, I also did more than I told you to do. I also read the introductions from the other editions of the Republic that I have, which were much more interesting than this introduction. Yeah, I also have the Loeb classics, the one I think we were talking about last time with the Greek and the English. This one was written, I think this was originally published in the 30s. So there's some really interesting stuff in there, much more interesting to read. And then also Allan Bloom's translation of the Republic. Which he kind of touched on a lot of the same things that we talked about, last time about how he kind of views the Republic as really more about education and things like that, which he touched on a little bit in Closing the American Mind. But very interesting, much more interesting than the really pretty simple and boring introduction given in the Penguin Classics edition, unfortunately.
I didn't think it was that boring. That was a good summary.
Well, it was a good summary, but not
that.
Oh boy!
Guess what is in this box?
You're holding up a weird blank brown box. I don't know.
Like cardboard looking. Take a guess.
Uh-huh.
Take a guess what's in this box.
I don't know. What is in the box?
Okay. Here's the big reveal.
Uh-huh.
It's a big reveal. All right, hold on. All right. Now can you guess what it is?
Are those matchbooks?
Oh, is it?
You get podcast matchbooks.
Do you see what it says?
That's ridiculous.
They're official Unlimited Opinions matchbooks, which has our Twitter handle on them.
Uh-huh.
And on the back has our names.
That's absurd.
Do you see all these in here?
There's how many are there?
This box?
There are multiple boxes?
Well, I ordered a lot.
How many did you order?
Well, there's 10 of these.
There's 10. Wait. Okay.
Row, and there's at least 3 or 4 rows. I think I've ordered 2,000.
2,000?
So we have, yes. So
why?
they're the old, strike books, not like with the ones with the stick matches, but like the fold over, and you can have them personalized. That we have is the logo that you created for the tool, and on the back it has our names. And I'm looking at it; it looks reversed.
No, it looks right on my end. That's just the camera on your side.
Yeah, that's like the camera makes it like I'm looking at a mirror or something.
Yes, yeah.
Right. Let's see, but I'm holding up my right hand.
So
it doesn't make any sense to me. Why is it backwards to me?
Because, well, if it wasn't backwards, it would look weird to you because you would raise your hand and you'd see it on the other side. That's besides the point. Why did you buy 2,000 matchbooks?
The per unit costs are less.
What are we gonna do with 2,000 matchbooks?
Well, we're gonna randomly leave them places.
Oh, good. I'm glad they have my name on them then.
Well, we're advertising the stars. See, on one side it says Unlimited Opinions, and it has the logo, and it has our Twitter handle. Back has our names. I get you top billing.
Thank you.
And so when we're out and about, like when you're in town, Christmas break, if you go to a restaurant or a bar or a tavern, you just leave one of these behind.
I can already picture it now. I'm going to get a text at some point months down the road from someone I haven't talked to in 3 years, asking why they found a matchbooks with my name on it at some restaurant around town.
Well, the funny thing is that they're going to see your name, and they're going to see, if they know you enough, they'll know my name. And like, what's this? What's Unlimited Opinions? Let's see, at Opinions. which is their Twitter handle, and they're gonna look it up on Twitter.
Hmm.
They're like, what are these freaks doing?
That's exactly what I want to happen. That's yeah, that's really good. Glad we
It,
have 2,000. How much did it cost for 2,000 customized matchbooks?
oh, I don't know, like a little over $200, something like that.
That's
It's
actually
not,
cheaper than I thought it
yeah,
would be. Yeah.
230 or something like that.
Wow.
They're personalized. They work
Well, that's
well.
good. That's
Now,
good.
this is what businesses used to do, like to
Hmm.
market like a small business because everybody smoked.
Hmm.
You literally would leave them,
Hmm.
like restaurant tables or the bowling alley and that kind of stuff. And then people, it'd be great for name recognition. So
I see.
our viewership of this podcast is going to skyrocket.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Well,
Well,
we should probably,
double the number of viewers.
yes. We should probably talk about the introduction of this book. It's an introduction written by not by the translator, but by a different professor, Melissa Lane, a PhD in philosophy from Cambridge. But the translation we're using is the Penguin translation, translated by Sir Desmond Lee, originally published. Let me double check. I'm actually not sure. It doesn't say when this was originally published. Let's see. Originally published 1955 in this translation, but the new introduction in 2007, which, as we kind of mentioned, is pretty much just a recap of the entire book. So I don't know how much we want to say about that before we actually just read the work itself. I don't know, but what did you think of the introduction here?
I think there are 50 matchbooks in each box.
Okay.
And I think there's 40 boxes.
There's 40 boxes?
Isn't there? Yeah. Doesn't that make 2,000? 50 times 40?
That does make 2,000.
Did I just do the math?
Yeah.
Yes, there's 40 of those boxes.
Right, right.
So I just want to spend the entire podcast talking about my matchbooks. Now the question is, can you take them back
Hmm.
to Florida with you? Or are they going to be like some sort of contraband? If you have like 1,000 matchbooks, is that considered like they think you're going to blow up the plane or something?
Probably. I probably can't take that many
I don't think they
matchbooks.
can take it on the carry-on. They'll call you
No.
the shoe bomber. It's a very slow shoe bomber. Blow up this plane one match at a time.
This is ridiculous.
All right. Okay, sorry. So, yes. Introduction.
Yes.
I liked it. I
Yeah.
thought, I mean, I was wondering, why am I reading a summary of the book I'm about to read? That was
Hmm.
unusual. It's like Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you kiddos know what Cliff Notes are. Cliff,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
those still exist?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Now they're like online. Like I know Cliff Notes like as a website essentially.
Hmm. Yeah, I like the idea that somebody put Cliff Notes materials online without their permission,
Mm.
summarize Cliff Notes, and then undercut them. I think that would be most appropriate
Hmm.
because that's what they were doing to the authors,
Right.
taking all the artistry out of books and learning.
Hmm. Yes.
Here's bullet points. Oh,
Hmm.
thank you, Cliff Notes. Um, so, what do we want to talk about as far as the book that I have not yet read?
Hmm. Well, I think the very beginning of the introduction I thought was really interesting, right? She starts out, she says, talking about Karl Popper, the philosopher of Karl Popper, exiled from Austria in the Second World War.
Lead singer of Blues Traveler.
Yes, I think different Karl Popper.
Different Popper? Different Popper?
Yes, different Popper. But he blamed the Republic as like the founding text of totalitarianism, right? Because as we'll see throughout the work, right, Plato's idea of sort of the ideal republic being ruled by these philosopher kings, right? And so Karl Popper sees in this, and other thinkers as well, that it's this sort of totalitarian, really sort of controlling state where everything is very minutely organized, right, according to the philosopher kings and things like that, which, I mean, is a reasonable argument, I think, to make about the book, that it is this sort of very totalitarian, very idealized society that has to function in a very particular way, as we'll kind of see, especially with the somewhat sort of eugenics argument that he kind of makes a little bit later about, finding and selecting the best people, essentially like from birth and educating them apart from everybody else. But that's a discussion we'll have a little bit later.
Yeah, and then dudes in charge get to say, "You and you make a kid,"
Yes, yeah, exactly.
which is the universal endpoint of all cults.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's always about. It was always about deciding who gets to have sex.
Hmm.
I'm reminded in the summary why I never liked Plato's Republic.
Hmm.
It is because, but having said this, I'm going to say it. Having thought this, and now I'm
Hmm.
going to say it. I've also think that there's some thing that I appreciate now more than I did when I was your age.
Hmm.
So what I don't like about it is just what you're referring to, which is what the problem he's trying to solve in writing this book is, how do you have a just society
Hmm.
where you recognize that the mob is more dangerous than it's worth. It's like he basically doesn't trust the common person.
Hmm.
So how do you find the people who are uncommonly effective at leading a just society?
Hmm.
And his concept of this is generally is to set up a system where you create those leaders.
Hmm.
You educate them, you segregate them. They have all sorts of restrictions on them and how they're raised and how they're born and all that stuff. And then you get these just people that will then lead everybody, make basically the main decisions for everybody. It's the political system. And that's what I've always hated about it.
Right.
It's just so completely impractical to me. But
Hmm.
we'll get all to the details in a little bit. But I think, and also in my youth, I hated the idea. It's just so anti-democratic and anti, really even Republican,
Hmm.
where you think that because of the way you educate people or bring them up, then you can figure out a way to train them to be just leaders. And I don't think that is possible. Now, having said that, I do think that there are certain people that can be just leaders,
Hmm.
and I think they're few and far between. So in a way, I agree with his premise, which is that not everybody is suited for this,
Hmm.
for leading and being an effective and just leader in whatever system you have. But I think the solution is not to try to manufacture those people, but to instead identify them in a system where that they can rise to that level. If that
Hmm.
makes sense, it's
Yeah.
I view it. He's working on the supply. I think the only way to solve it is on the demand.
Hmm.
Like, and I think we used to have a better in America. We had a better concept of limiting or studying the demand, like what
Hmm.
we demanded in leaders. I think was better in the years before I was born. So like
Yeah.
before 1970. And I think there's been so much corruption, and maybe we just know more about them.
Hmm.
But like in the United States, the successful presidential candidates, so to speak, were always at least pretending to be reluctant
Right.
to the position. They wouldn't actually campaign or say, "Hey, vote for me." And now it's like, they in third grade they decide they're going to be president, and they work relentlessly. Like
Right.
the prototype is Gavin Newsom.
Hmm.
And in a sense, it's an attribute that he will do or say anything
Hmm.
to retain and obtain to obtain power. And I think our system rewards that because the demand side is tell me what I want to hear.
Hmm.
So I've gone on a long little.
Right. No,
So
I think that's right, and I think it's also important. One of the other good parts of the introduction is the sort of background, the historical background,
yes,
where she talks about politics in Plato's world, right? Because this was written probably about 375 BC, but just about 30 years earlier, there was a Spartan sort of coup, or Spartan installed
yeah,
oligarchy placed over Athens. But then afterwards, in the aftermath of that, then in 399 BC, of course, famously, Socrates is condemned and killed, executed by the state. Right. So you have these very huge political events, of course, in the life of Plato, as the student of Socrates and things like that, right? Within living memory, sort of this oligarchy that ruled over Athens, and then, of course, this somewhat, democratic, or actually very democratic execution of his mentor, right? It was put to a vote, right? And so these sort of questions of this debate between oligarchy and democracy, right? Which is sort of better? How do you avoid the faults of either one? Right, is what at least the introduction sort of says is sort of the big political question of the time. You see this in other writings as well, right? In Thucydides' history of the Peloponnesian War, right? When does an empire become a tyranny and things like that. Then the stories about all of these faults of democracy, like we've talked about in the past, right? The one instance, the worst instance, when the Athenians voted one day to exterminate the men and enslave the women and children of a rebellious city, and the very next day then overturned the decree, right? So seeing the whims of the people, shift from one thing to its complete opposite, overnight. How do you avoid the problems with each of those? This is sort of Plato's working through that, but I think really more importantly, and I think is often downplayed, is what the original question is just what is justice? How do you live a moral life? Because yeah, it is about politics. It's very much about politics, but it's also, I think, much more foundationally about like how do you order your own soul, right? Because that's how he gets to talking about the ideal republic in the first place. Is well, let's have an example of how to order your soul. Let's just extend the soul out on a bigger level. Talk about the city. How do you order a city or a state, really? Then how do you order the soul, sort of based on that model of the ideal city state?
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that subject?
I mean, I think there's a lot to what Plato says. I'm not really much of a Platonist, I guess. I'm much more of an Aristotelian in the way that I think about things and the sort of the philosophy that I favor. I'm not a big, I don't believe that the forms or the ideals exist in that way. I believe in natures and things like that, and it's more Aristotelian, Thomistic, those sorts of ideas. But I do think there's a lot of good insights here about, how you rein in the passions and things like that. How do you have reason controlling, your desires and stuff like that. There's some good analogies. There's the chariot analogy that comes up in here. You have the story of the ring of Gyges comes up, and then of course towards the end we have really sort of Plato's metaphysics. With the allegory of the cave and the line and things like that, which are mentioned here in the introduction. So I think it's a very important book, of course, because this is one of the most foundational philosophical texts of all time. And I think there are very good insights for how to order your soul, but it's not sort of my ideal philosophical work. I favorite a little bit more than you do, I think. But we'll see if your mind changes when you actually read it for the first time in what, like 30 years.
Yeah, at least, yeah, because it would have been, I would have been 21, 20
Yeah.
or 21. So yeah, a long time ago,
Hmm.
30, probably 34 years
Right.
ago.
Yeah, it's
I,
only
you know,
been, I don't know, like a
I,
year and a half since I read it for the first time. So it's
uh, and I have to confess, I never really understood the cave analogy.
mm,
I'm hoping I'm gonna have to study it this time because I either didn't get it or I don't know if I didn't understand it or I
mm,
don't understand the how people find it compelling or interesting.
hmm.
So I'll have to study it harder this time. But I was going to say something else and I can think of what it was. Um, Darn it,
Is it
completely
about the
lost.
soul, about justice, about I don't know. Because
Yeah,
that's the guiding question at first. It's this conversation about what is justice. And that's really the chief point here. And I think that comes up, in the introduction as well of, what is sort of a virtue. Because it's really what ends up kind of being talked about, and this is adapted and fleshed out by Aristotle much more so. But this word in Greek, arete, which means excellence, right? And you see this in different contexts, right? There's sort of this excellence of justice. Aristotle uses the same term, and that's sort of incorporated into Christianity in slightly different ways as a virtue, right? Well, through Latin, of course, they had their own idea of virtus, that came somewhat related to the Greek view, and then sort of into Christianity, especially influenced by Aristotle later on, and Cicero as well, and various other authors. But this idea of like what makes a human excellent, is justice a virtue, and things like that is really the question they're getting at.
Yeah, and I do like how he evaluates. Basically, if nobody sees you stealing something,
Hmm.
is that almost like, is that a sin, or is
Right.
that something that makes a difference?
Hmm.
And explores that, which I guess it was in a system where you don't have a
Hmm.
monotheistic religion where God is watching everything. I think it's a more of a important question
Right.
than to the rest of us that are
Right.
Christians. Think, well, God's always watching you, knucklehead.
Right.
You
Right.
know, well, if there's no
Yeah.
God, you know.
Yeah. There's also the other sort of important, moral point, right? Which they're talking about, eudaimonia, right? Which is kind of translated into English. I think he uses it throughout as happiness, but it's not happiness sort of in the way that we think about it, like you just feel happy about something. Other translations I've seen of like fulfillment, really like in its roots, the EU is like a prefix meaning good, and then daimonia, the root there is daimon, which is where we get the word demon, actually. But in the Greek, it's like sort of a spirit, right? It could be used sort of vaguely for, other sort of gods and things like that. It's not necessarily a negative thing. But eudaimonia is really like having a good spirit within you in some ways. Like, how do you achieve excellence? How do you achieve that state of like good spiritedness, good souledness? Is kind of what they're talking about.
And it seems like, of course, we're gonna get through this later in the season, but it really is kind of like an atheist's guide to
Hmm.
just living,
Yep.
because I mean that and I don't know that Plato really believed in the Greek gods, but if he did,
Hmm.
they're not as universal. I mean, even their gods were flawed.
Right.
And so, and then the whole reincarnation thing and all that kind of stuff. So um, yeah, like where you're just trying to define a just life
Hmm.
without a religious system or without the Bible or whatever behind it.
Hmm.
It's a fascinating
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
It's a bold
Um,
strategy, Cotton. I don't know if he's going to pull it off.
No. Well, I guess you'll find out as you read. I don't think there's too much else to say about sort of the central part of the introduction here, because it's just summary of what we'll read later. The last section, though, does talk about the impact and significance of the Republic, which is, of course, huge. It's kind of Plato's masterwork, Plato being essentially the father of all, modern Western philosophy. I think really every philosopher, once you get down to it, is responding to Plato in some way. You
Yeah.
really can't escape him. And so he, the introduction author, mentions certain specific things, right? Inspiring the works of Cicero and Thomas More, especially with his Utopia, John Milton's Paradise Lost, right? Just comes up again and again and again. Rousseau, had to take two books to do what, Plato did in one in the Republic, talking about education, and then also talking about, politics. But really sort of this masterwork of like, how do you actually understand the human person? How do you understand justice? How does that relate to the state? This really unique, Platonic view that you really only see here, and then everything else is very much responding to that.
Yes. Well, it's wild that it's what 20, how many years old is it now? I mean,
2,500, just about.
500 years old, and we're still talking about it. Yeah, I mean it's fascinating, and of course the other books, the other dialogues are. I thought the other dialogues were more fun to read
Mm,
than Plato's Republic, especially when you get deeper into this thing.
right.
Uh, and he starts talking about the cave and the this and that and the shadows and whatever. Uh, but um, but certainly his discussions, about what is a just life, and it's like it's those questions. Those are the questions to ask,
Hmm.
and then of course we have to come to the own appropriate answers with them. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But certainly influential, like you said,
Right.
and something that
Hmm.
every young person should be forced to read.
Yes.
How
No, I
many people
agree.
read Plato? I mean, actually,
I think
probably
very few.
really. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah,
Fewer
probably.
than there used to be. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody that would be consider themselves a well-read person would have read
mhm.
Plato's
Oh, yeah,
Republic.
absolutely. Every educated
40,
person, I think, just
yeah,
period, if you received any kind of education.
40 years ago, don't you think? I mean, certainly longer than that. I mean, all
Yeah,
the founding fathers would have read it.
right,
They
right.
probably would have read it in Greek.
Yeah, a lot
A
of
lot of
them.
them, a lot of them knew how to read Greek and Latin.
Hmm.
I don't know how to read either. Only the dorks and weirdos learn that stuff now.
That's
You,
it's very
you know any,
true.
you know any of them?
Yeah, I know a lot of them. I'm one of them for better or worse. But I know a lot of others too.
Find each other. Is that a
Yes.
secret sign or is it just you smell it on them? You think like Greek and Latin.
Oh man, I do like. I'll read a section from another introduction that I mentioned that I read. This is
Oh
from
yeah.
Paul Shorey's introduction, the end of his introduction in the
So
Loeb
what
text.
before you do that,
Yes.
what are the main differences in that introduction, the Loeb text, versus the one that I read?
There are a lot of similarities. The Loeb text also kind of gives a general overview of important topics and things like that, but it's much more interested in. I think this was written. Let me see when it was originally published. I think this introduction, yeah, first published 1930.
Okay.
So it's really interesting, actually, kind of discussion of how this relates to sociology, right? Talking about sociology as sort of this new field or this newly popularizing field.
Yeah.
So this idea of, well, how do we actually consider the human, person in connection with the city? What does this mean, especially in terms of all the classical scholarship that's happening? It's really up and coming
Right.
at this time that we just don't have, kind of as we mentioned. Again, sort of talking about other works that this has influenced and things like that. There's an interesting discussion in here actually on what the original name of the text was. That I think was in this introduction, not the other one. But Shorey seems to think that the original name was probably originally just called the Constitution, right? Concerning the Constitution, about the Constitution. And then Aristotle cites it as the Politeia, right? That's really the Greek name, the polity, right? From polis, the city state, right? Where we also get the word police, politics, things like that are all derived from that word. And then there's a secondary title, Heperi dikaion, right? Concerning justice, right? The thing about justice. But what he says is, and I think it's interesting, right? We use the Latin name of the work, republic, right? And the word republic comes from res publica, literally the common thing, the public thing, res meaning thing, publica meaning public, or the common good, right? That's their word for the common good. You think about the republic, you think about the purpose of the state, you should be considering, what is the common good for the state. And this isn't necessarily coming from the introduction. This is more so just my thoughts, right? You
Yeah.
talk about a republic, you talk about the common good, the public thing. Now we think of Republican as either a political party or a specific structure of government. We don't think of it as, well, what is the common good? And you can find that in any type of regime, really, or any type of good regime will prioritize the common good. There has to be that emphasis on what is the common good for the people in the state.
It's interesting. That's reminds me of that Josh Hammer,
Mm.
who you met.
Hmm.
He spoke up at Truman, and he had that. I think it's a few essays about common good conservatism,
Hmm. Yeah.
getting back to that whole philosophy, which of course dates back to um, Plato's Republic. That's really what Plato's trying to do is to
Hmm.
say, okay, let's try to figure out a system that benefits the public.
Hmm.
I think like the author of the introduction of this book, is making the point that he might be seeking to overcorrect the excesses that killed his
Hmm.
buddy and mentor, and I think there probably is some of that. I mean,
Hmm.
you can't help but uh, criticize a system that would allow that to happen.
Right.
But I guess they only had really three main concepts of government then, which would be tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy. And I think democracy was probably the most rare, I would think, in the
Not
world.
not necessarily. Aristotle, he kind of famously describes six different types, really three types, but separated by good and bad, right? Where he
Yeah,
says really the best type of government is a monarchy, right? That is the ideal form of government. That is the best because, if one person's in charge, he can do the most good if he has that power, but he has to be a good person.
yeah,
And that's why the subsequent, the bad form is the worst type of government, right? A tyranny is the absolute worst form of government because if the bad dude's in charge, he could do a lot of bad.
yeah.
And then you also have
Yeah,
aristocracy.
I don't see a difference between a monarchy and a tyranny. But go
Really?
ahead.
Oh, well,
I mean,
well,
it's just how you select them. It's by
Well, yeah,
birth
it's
order as opposed to by just usurping, just asserting
well,
power.
he's not talking about like how the government actually comes into being. He's saying like based on how many people are in charge, who has the power? Is it one person? Is it a few people? Or is it the many? And then separated then by do they use it for the common good or do they not? Right? That's the distinction, not exactly how they came into power.
And I
Because
guess
you can
thinking
be,
that the
yeah,
monarchy is like think you're the father of
right,
the people, and so you're going
right.
to be benevolent.
Right. You can technically be a tyrant. You can usurp the power, but then be a good monarch. Right. If you use the power well. Right. Then the discussion is if you really were a truly good person, would you usurp the power, unnecessarily? But that's besides the point. Then he says like the next level is the aristocracy, right? The rule of the best, literally. Aristos is the best. And its contrast is oligarchy, right? The bad rule by the few. Not quite as bad as a monarchy, but pretty bad. Aristocracy, not quite as good as a monarchy, but pretty good. And then the politeia, which is the good form, and democracy, which is the bad form,
Mm.
right? You see that pretty consistently. Democracy is seen as the bad form of essentially mob rule throughout a lot of these Greek authors. There are texts where they're examining sort of the different constitutions of the states around them. And you do get some sense of some sort of democratic processes in them. Our modern view of democracy or sort of republicanism, a lot of sort of oligarchies, some monarchies, and things like that. But democracy wasn't limited to just Athens, it seems like, or at least democratic principles weren't present just there.
Yeah, I think I'm coming to the conclusion that one of the big problems with our current society is our aristocracy are a bunch of retards.
hmm Yeah, I mean,
Not
I
supposed to use
agree.
that word, but it's like, if all those people that are in a leadership position weren't so stupid and
hmm
corrupt,
hmm
we'd be a lot better off.
Yeah, because I think there's a tendency now, especially among, well, not so much anymore. I think it's kind of losing speed, but like the libertarian sort of conservative idea, really just libertarian ideas, like any sort of elite is a bad thing. Any sort of like group
Oh yeah,
in charge of institutions is a bad thing. I don't think that's necessarily true, right? You need to have people running things. They just have to be good people. Our
yeah.
problem isn't that there are people running things. The problem is that we have the wrong people running things. And
Mm.
if they were the right people, things would be much better.
Yes.
hmm
Yeah, that reminds me. I'm reading of the several books that I'm reading at the same time.
hmm
This history of the Spanish Civil War, and I'm just fascinated. They had actual anarchists
hmm
as like a political force, like groups of
Yeah.
anarchists. I just find that really funny.
hmm hmm
And then they really got overtaken by the commies because the
Right.
commies were organized and hierarchical.
And they can
The
take over
they
the anarchists pretty easily.
they shared a lot of ideas and ideals
hmm
about dividing everything equally, but the anarchists couldn't get it done. They couldn't cooperate.
Well, there you go. It
It's just
reminds me, I know I've told this story before, but the libertarian group that we used to have in campus at my undergrad that had to dissolve because they refused to pay their $1 student activity fee, because that's like taxation and that's
love
immoral.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. You know
Um,
what they should have done? They should have just stolen it.
yeah.
You know, or like roughed up a somebody and taken their money, or some because I mean it's not the government.
Right. Right.
It's private actors just asserting their own power over somebody and taking their lunch
Right.
money.
Right. Exactly. I did want to read
I
this
guess they
this
were, I guess they
section.
were benevolent
Yeah,
libertarians
I
as
think it could
opposed
be.
to actual. Oh, did I not let you read the
No,
excerpt?
no, no. I was going to read the excerpt. Then we just moved on
Oh,
to
read the
yes,
excerpt.
yes.
Yeah,
But he says,
bated breath. I wait.
yes, I'm sure you are. He says, such scholars in politics and such idealists, right, talking about people who interpret Plato and thinkers like Plato, and they only can do for us what the practical politician, the opportunist, who never even in dreams have seen the things that are more excellent, can never achieve. Think you that such a man, if called to the conduct of human affairs and given the opportunity not merely to mold his own soul, but to realize and embody his vision in the institutions and characters of men, will be a contemptible artisan of sobriety and righteousness and all social and human virtue? Will he not, like an artist, glance frequently back and forth from his model, the city in the clouds, home of the absolute good, the true and the beautiful, to the mortal copy which he fashions so far as may be in its image? And so, mixing and mingling the pigments on his palette, he will reproduce the true measure and likeness of man, which even old Homer hints is or ought to be the likeness of God. So definitely more poetic language in his description, but talking about, the artist looking like to himself and to the city as models like for each other. right? How do you craft a society so that, the human person is perfected by it? How do you, craft a society so that you can perfect it by perfecting yourself, right? You have to use both, right? They can both be models for each other if things are good, right? If you have the right, sort of social system in place, if you have the right virtues in place, both sort of the individual can be a model for the city and the city can be a model for the individual, but it takes a lot of work and really an idealist to even describe such a system.
Yeah, and one of the things that Plato raises, and you mentioned it, like about trying to form a just society, the right people to do it. One of the things I think if I remember correctly, he raises the issue of you want to have a reason
Hmm.
guiding our leadership, and essentially one of his points was, what does it matter if it's your reason, if it's correct?
Hmm.
What does it matter if it's your reason dictating the correct course, or a ruler
Hmm.
who is using the correct reason to select the correct course and making you do it? You
Hmm.
know what which is one better or worse than the other? You're still having the correct course.
Hmm.
So
Right.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
uh,
No.
so it's part of that, like where he's saying, because they're like, well, who is anybody else to tell me what to do?
Hmm.
Well, if the ruler is correct and you should, and you weren't doing the right thing,
Hmm.
isn't it better that the ruler has the power to order you to do the right thing?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Hmm. Well, I mean, that's the whole reason. I mean, that's really the
yeah,
classical idea of why we have government at all, right? Is
yeah,
so that the right people will be in charge and will know what to do and will punish people appropriately, right? And as we kind of talked about when we were reading Orestes Brownson, right? Now the idea is, well, we just have government because we had to have someone sort of manage our contracts, right?
yeah,
We just had to like give up our own individual authority, so that we can like sort of pool our authority together and put someone in charge who can, sort of manage just sort of the customs that we have. But
yeah,
really, the classical idea is much richer than that. The
yeah,
classical and medieval idea, where it's like, well, no, there should be somebody or some group of people in charge of a state that is pursuing the common good for all people. Right? That's really what the ruler should be. And then, of course, the question is it possible, or have we ever had one like that in sort of the modern age? Right? Has there ever been a truly, moral, heroic, virtuous, president of the United States? Um, Maybe, but hard to say.
Hmm. James K. Polk came close.
I know he's your favorite.
Second favorite.
Hmm. Who's your
So
favorite?
Washington.
Oh, oh,
He
yeah,
made all the others possible.
that's true. That's
I
true.
mean, if it were not him, that we wouldn't have a republic.
Yeah. There's rumors that he converted to Catholicism on his deathbed.
Who's spreading those rumors now?
Like the folk tale, I guess. It's sort of been passed around, really, among the slaves at his community. And there's a story about a Jesuit priest traveling to meet with him in his final hours. So
Interesting.
yeah,
That's back when the Jesuits would kick ass. Yeah, they really were. I mean, they
yeah.
were out there, they're converting people, and
Hmm.
well, sometimes a little overzealously, but what's what's a few broken eggs when you're making some omelets, I guess. Now they're just a bunch of. I'm not going to finish that thought.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's, of course, there's a few of them that are just great guys.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel bad for them, stuck with that hierarchy.
yeah, yeah. That's
Gross.
true.
Anyway, I don't want to go down that
Yeah,
path.
before we go down anywhere else, do you have anything else to say about the introduction here?
No, I thought this was excellent, and a large case of these await your return.
Oh, good.
Just weeks from now, they're in the closet,
Uh-huh.
and we'll burn some matches. Uh,
Just to burn them.
well, I guess I need to really get serious about starting smoking cigarettes. Like I get through 2,000 matchbooks. Now
Well,
each
you
book.
do have a pipe. You could start smoking a pipe with your matchbook.
How many matches are in each matchbook? Three, six, nine. Like
So
20.
so
How many?
many matches. We have what, 40,000 matches now?
you know, it's better to have matches and not need them than to need them and not have them.
I guess so. I guess
All our
so.
friends, all our friends and family will now have matches.
That's great. That's
And
great.
at some point, one of us would say, you know what? I really needed matches.
Mm-hmm.
And was. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
All
I'm going to
right.
this podcast.
Yes, at ULMTD opinions on Twitter.
Yes, I'm going to figure out for next season. So if anybody wants matches
Hmm.
that is listening to this podcast, we will ship you a book of matches. Just
Maybe a couple
DM.
books.
Oh, I only have 2,000 of them. This is going to be an avalanche. Send us your address, DM the Twitter handle
Hmm.
with your address, and we will send you a book of matches, a limited edition.
Hmm.
Only 2,000 books were made.
And they're selling fast.
They're
You
going
better get them
fast.
quick.
We will mail you, which I don't know if is legal, but we will. This was mailed to me. It has to be legal.
Yeah,
A
yeah, yeah,
big
yeah.
case of 2,000 matchbooks. We will send you a book of matches.
That's a
No
guarantee.
charge.
Yes,
All you have to do is request it.
yes, that's right.
But we
All right.
expect a review, a 5-star review of the matches.
Yeah. Where are they gonna put the review?
In our podcast, they'll say,
Oh, okay.
podcast sucks, match is good.
This is ridiculous.
And for next season, so at the end of this season, I
Hmm.
have to come up with some other ridiculous marketing thing from the
Hmm.
1940s.
Hmm.
You know what? Ashtrays. Who has ashtrays? No one.
Nobody.
The Wegman Law Firm, my firm used to have ashtrays, and I
Hmm.
forget where forget whose house I saw one at, and I should have stole it.
Mm.
But if I ever find one,
Hmm.
keep it in a place of high honor.
There you go. All right. Well, do you have any other final thoughts for this episode?
No, I
All
thought
right.
it was excellent.
That's right. Well, this has been season 13, episode 1 of Unlimited Opinions. That offer for the matchbooks is genuine. You
Yes,
can send
get me
us your
there.
address and
I'll drop them.
we'll,
Mail it to you.
we'll mail them to you. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at ULMTD Opinions. I've been Adam Bishop.
Still Mark Bishop.